I'm COD Director Paul Ferrace, and today we are in beautiful San Diego attending the HINZA conference. But for me, the main objective is to visit the last diesel submarine in the U.S. Navy, USS Dolphin, and we have Coronado Air Base behind me, and suddenly the Navy is sending up F-18 Hornets. SS 555 Triple Nichols. She is a research submarine. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go aboard. She's got a bit of marine growth, and she's had some modifications with the deck plate access because it doesn't have a very wide casing, and was built originally with one torpedo tube, which was later removed. But she's got an interesting history, and we'll talk about that. But to access Dolphin, you go aboard the ferry here at the Maritime Museum of San Diego, which is also home of the Star of India and a number of other important ships. Let's just walk through the gift shop, because frankly, that's the heart of every maritime museum.
So it pays for kids to come down and learn about like the ecology and the health of the bay and the history. And they do water quality testing. And we have seen, as I've been doing this for about 7 years now, it used to be after it rained, the pH of the bay just, I mean, it was significantly noticeable.
As we are going aboard USS Dolphin. Now, Dolphin, as I said, is a research vessel like Albacore and Marlin at Freedom Park. She wasn't built as a warship. She was built to develop systems, tactics, and perhaps weapons, and certainly how to deliver weapons as the technology of our submarines increased, and of course speed and depth rapidly increased. So she was built in the 60s to provide a test bed to develop systems and technologies for finding ways to eject torpedoes at extreme depths and things. Her sail is literally 3.5 feet wide. I mean, that is big enough for a thin skipper to go topside. In fact, that sail, here we're looking at it, plastic composites, and it flares out. Some would say just like a U-boat, but I'll say just like an R, O, or S boat. And there's her logo. And again, that deck casing is rather narrow, and of course they've had to modify it so she has a staircase to get down inside. And we're about to go below. So as we all know, going downstairs, especially steep ones like this, can be rather problematic. And we enter, hell, this isn't a fleet boat, so I'll just say the forward compartment. I'm beginning to see some familiar things. The forward trim tank. Interesting use of netting as a barrier for the public. Very much Cold War era, light fixtures and such. Now, she was built with one torpedo tube because in World War II, of course, and later, submarines were firing torpedoes really not much deeper than 100 feet, so compressed air was sufficient to expel a weapon. But modern nuclear submarines going deeper, deeper, and deeper, they had to develop methods to eject weapons without using compressed air as like basically a spitball out of a soda straw. So that was one of the functions. And while we're here, I want to just show that pressure hull. Now, according to the Navy, her depth was in excess of 3,000 feet. But I have it on good authority that depths of 10,000 feet were not uncommon. 10,000 feet. So that is approximately 2¼ inches of probably HY80 steel. So there you go. HY80, 2¼ inches. Being a relatively narrow pressure hull, hoop stress, deformation modalities and all, she probably could go even deeper than that. Yeah, the official placard says in excess of 3,000 feet. Ah, I was right, HY80. And she had her torpedo installed. Dolphin could carry 4 torpedoes, 1 in the tube, 1 in line to be loaded, and 2 in storage. After initial test and launch of a torpedo in '69 from the deepest depth ever recorded, I wonder what that was, Dolphin was refitted for other research. Okay, single compartment, which means we're not going to bump our heads on any doors between compartments. I'll back up and we'll get a nice shot of this, and then hopefully you'll be able to freeze frame. And just like COD, below the control room is the pump room. This is the ballast control panel. As you can see, they have the modern circles and dashes. Not our Christmas tree. And of course, electrical distribution and control. So they're combining port and starboard in one section here with these nice little seats. And this is the DRT.
Oh, Stefan Zoltan Karat. He's also from when we went to a restaurant, and he said, okay, I would like to order a goulash, and he got a soup. And he said, what the hell is this? And he said, this is the original one. And he said,
Emergency breathing
life
connections.
was a lie because their parents told them this is true. And also in Poland, it's made like a stew. It's really interesting.
For us, it's like not much broth, just the ingredients, like the tomatoes, and pasta.
It's a nice view through the periscope, but the camera can't really record.
Beans and
Carrots too?
and also meat, probably beef.
Beef, that's
Yep.
what we used.
And full of paprikas and then other spices.
Now I am hungry. Kind of hard to find that around
Really?
restaurants.
Wow. I have a foreman to be nice, and I said, wow.
The periscope is cable driven, like all American submarine periscopes were before 1943. So talk about a throwback to the old days. Cable lifted periscopes. Yes, here's the connection for the cable drives. So this is what COD had in a larger scale up until her Mare Island refit, when this was replaced by hydraulic lift systems. And I see over there we have our set of alarms: collision, general quarters, red might be fire, collision, fourth one there. So moving on from the control room, this is officers' quarters, and there is the head. I don't know how many heads she would have had on the shower. There's the commanding officer's stateroom. Look like he's sharing it with some other officers. A little sink, fold-up sink, which, if you're familiar with the USS Albacore, the other research boat, that's a common type of design for that era. And this is the galley, which they do not have any Martha Stewart fittings. There's 2-burner hot plate, A griddle. Oh, I love that griddle. We don't have a cover like that on cod, but we have those little knobbies everywhere. And a sink. Ow! Ooh. No, it's not hot. And what we don't have on cod, a microwave. And here is the mess deck for everybody. Great shot. So, like all research submarines, everything Dolphin did remains pretty well classified. Again, we know she was developing torpedo ejection technologies initially or at some point, and then later moved on to other things to build the modern submarine force we have today. Doesn't look like they're playing with dark adaptation cards. And I'm not sure they had Cheerios in World War II. And obviously these little clips are for probably butt kits or some other little accessories. Oh, okay, the rack over the galley table was designed by the crew as a condiment tray. Again, very, very similar to what World War II fleet boats had. Not all fleet boats, but many of the fleet boats had a stand-up condiment tray over the top of the table to put all those condiments. Now over here is the scullery, and good Lord, they got a dishwasher, including sterilization baskets. Again, a modernization of what we had on cod during the war. So, sterilization. I'm gonna stop for a second and we'll move that thing out just temporarily to see what the other basket looks like. So there are two baskets, similar size, for sterilization. You can wash and then sterilize your dishes and utensils in this high temperature sterilization sink. Again, very, very similar to USS Cod scullery. Now that it's closed, I wonder if World War II fleet boats had an insulating cover to keep the superheated water from spilling out. But you know what? Probably not, because in World War II, they weren't doing quite the angles and dangles that this could do. And looking here, we're going to sit down and have a look. We have a broiler. And maybe that's a warming or a chill box. That could be a chill box right dead center. Somebody's removed the doors. But that's definitely an oven. Wells, they made equipment for cod. Vulcan, that's definitely very much Cold War. But yeah, my gut feeling is that's a chill box. And this is an oven. So a very compact galley. And probably the toaster went up there. Very big toaster. Or maybe a television. Yeah, that would make perfect sense. Your toaster could go anywhere, probably under the cabinet, plugged into those plugs right there. But yeah, that definitely looks like it's made to hold in a cathode ray television tube, because you got to watch TV. How else are you going to watch Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea? Especially when you're in a boat that can literally go back to the bottom of the sea, come back from the bottom of the sea. So here we are leaving the galley into the engineering space, and again a sound dampening door, not pressure proof. And down below the hatch I can see a big old diesel generator, and we'll find out what make model she has. So two 2 levels. And I gotta say, given the size of the pressure hull, you know, it looks like there's at least 6 feet of headspace down there. And up here, obviously, ballast control fittings. Refrigeration plant. I mean, there's a lot of stuff missing. All right, here we go. USS Dolphin was the last diesel-electric submarine. The long version, Dolphin, is a propeller-driven sub. She has 2 825 horsepower direct current DC motors. All right. On a single propulsion shaft. Engines are 425 horsepower, 12 volt GMC 2-cycle diesels. Okay, no turbochargers. Diesel bus engines. Well, let's drop me off at 12th and Main, please. Connected to 250 kilowatt generators. All right, so just by comparison, COD has 4 mains that are 1,600 horsepower, 16-cylinder GMC 2 cycles, driving each 1,100 kilowatt DC generators. 2 batteries are 126 cells. Okay, lead acid, 250 volt DC. So she's roughly got the same number of batteries as COD. So, yeah, she's a modern miniature version of COD in so many ways. All right, now here is the electrical distribution, or what we would consider maneuvering. And we can see the workbench here and the vise and the ladder they've cut through the pressure hull to get out. And another eye wash station. I guess, you know, modern OSHA, it's not something I have seen in any of the Guppy boats or the World War II fleet boats. As we move through the upper half of the engineering space. So here is direct drive motor down here. And I can identify those as her stern plane rudder rams. And again, I think you can clearly see here how the pressure hull tapers down into a much smaller diameter. And that, if we can pull this up, let me get through there. That right there looks like it's the thrust bearing and the gland for the propeller to exit the pressure hull. So there is, under the grating here, that looks like it's part of the drive shaft. If you can see that below the grating. And they want you to leave. But we're going to come back for a second round and get some video, or at least some stills of what we've seen, so we can include them. Sadly, Evan isn't here to make the video magic that he does. He sadly couldn't attend the conference because of a family health emergency. So, man, Evan, I'm missing you right now, and I don't have you to abuse. So you're going to have to go with whatever I can do with my phone. So let's head up on deck. I'm going to try not to hit my head. Here's another shot of the workbench. And there is something out of Home Depot, which I can imagine would create a pretty effective air curtain in less than ideal weather conditions. And we're back up here now on the stern. Speaking of rudders, there we go. There's that deck casing, her stern light, and the rudder. I gotta believe she's got the standard cruciform stern planes and rudder and one prop. I'm impressed all of that we just saw is contained in this very small hull. Her ballast tanks look like they might have a standoff from the pressure hull of about a foot, but it's a smaller vessel, and so she's gonna need less ballast on board to dive. I'm not sure what that is. She's got what looks to be an attack scope. Nothing too fancy up there. And there's a swift boat for all you swift boat people from the Vietnam era or early post-Vietnam Cold War era. They take her out for runs with VIPs. And we're going to go down here at least to get a good shot of her hull. A lot of marine growth down there. She came here about 2008, 2009. Direct from the Navy. I'm not sure the Navy did a dry docking before turning her over to the folks here at the San Diego Maritime Museum. But here again, you see that very small conning tower. Very, very similar to the old R boats, O boats, and early S boats. Maybe a Type 2 U-boat, maybe a Type 7 without the winter garden. Probably not too different from a German U-206 type export submarine. Well, there you have it. One of a handful of research submarines that are on display in America. Albacore perhaps being the most well-known, then Dolphin here on the West Coast. And let's not forget Marlin. Marlin's job was primarily to develop anti-submarine tactics. She had a streamlined guppy hull, and she could do short bursts of incredible high speed. So she was training surface ASW in how to hunt down and attack fast-moving enemy submarines. And when her role was no longer needed, she was made available, and now she's on display in Freedom Park. Maybe Evan can put a link to her. She's sitting up on blocks on land. You might do it with this, but she's rather large, much larger than Marlin, and not as big as Albacore, which Albacore's job was to develop hull designs and other related technologies, you know, to transition from the era of diesel subs that were really surface ships that could dive underwater for a short time. Now, of course, she's not nuclear. We're talking about Albacore, and same for Dolphin. But we wanted to really work out just what type of a hull design would be working best when we built the first true submarines, both, you know, having both nuclear propulsion and the teardropped or body of revolution hull design. So that was the mission of Albacore. As I said, Marlin being a target or a ping rabbit to develop tactics, and Dolphin developing the hardware, plumbing, and other systems to allow our latest or later follow-on submarines to be able to eject torpedoes and other systems that would require working at extreme depth. So it's great to see another diesel boat, the last diesel boat here in San Diego. And thank you for joining us. Remember, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell, and we'll be back with more content. Thanks.